Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 2, Daily Habits to Achieve Holistic Health. And I'm very excited about this week because I've geeked out on all this research and I find it fascinating. So I'm excited to share, and I have lots to share with you today. But before we go forward, just want to a quick check-in on the previous week and on the homework for last week. And I've checked in by email with you. I heard back from some of you, and we've discussed about how to incorporate it given, your particular lifestyle. And so if you are having trouble incorporating things, or you're feeling like you're getting overwhelmed, please contact me and we'll look at how we can work it into your life. I certainly don't want any of this to be feeling like a chore, overwhelming. The aim is to help you find ease in your life and in your health, and make it holistically helpful. So the last thing we want to do is cause stress because of it. So I really try to encourage you to have compassion and to fit in what you can. And this is information that you can take through your lifetime. I encourage you to do the homework, but if it's overwhelming, you're like, okay, maybe I can do this much this week, and then maybe next week I'll have space to incorporate those habits and the new habits next week. So just having compassion with yourself and taking it in your stride. You have a lifetime to incorporate these habits, but doing it right now on the course, of course, keeps you accountable as well. So we're going to start straight into today, and week 2 is going to be a big week. We're going to talk all about the body, and going to talk about Ayurvedic nutrition and guidelines, and how to balance your body with food, and also choosing physical activity for your body type. I have a lot of information to share today, so you may want to take some notes. Of course, you'll receive this recording, and I will say straight off that you probably will have to go over this information again. And also today, not to feel overwhelmed by this concept, because it's going to be new for a lot of you, the Ayurvedic approach to nutrition, and we're going to talk about tastes and how they affect your body. So it's another layer to add to your Ayurvedic education, but see it as a layer that you need to create awareness around first, and then implement after you create the awareness. So today, just sit back and kind of listen, take some notes, see the overall picture of it. You don't have to remember everything today. Don't put pressure on yourself. And then gradually you'll start creating awareness around how the taste and the qualities of the food affect your body and mind. So on that note, let's get started. And we're going to start with some general things first. General nutrition aspects. The first one is the importance of food, and just from an Ayurvedic approach. Well, food is prana. Food is life force. Food has the energy. The food we take into our body becomes our body. The food we digest becomes our cells and tissues. So we need to give ourselves food that is full of this life force. Of course, fresh food is the best, right? We think of frozen food or canned food. Anything that sits on the shelf for a long time is not going to have a lot of life force. Some people say, well, so raw food should have the best life force. Yes, if we do, research has shown that, and we do studies on raw food, it does have a lot of prana. And of course, once it's cut from the vine or harvested, the prana goes down a little, of course, because it's cut. But most people have difficulty accessing the prana and nutrition from raw food due to weak digestion. And we know digestive issues is a huge ailment in our culture today, and due to stress and processed foods and junk foods and lots of different reasons, our digestion is really inhibited. So if your digestive fire is not strong enough to break down this raw food, this is full of prana, then you're not accessing the nutrition. So in Ayurveda, we really recommend cooking your food slightly, not overcooking it, but cooking it slightly to make it more easy digestible so that you can access that prana, that life force. Food provides the building blocks that creates new structures in our body, as I said. It nourishes not only the body, but the mind and the soul. And you're going to see this and how it affects your mind and ultimately your soul as we go through the slides today. Our strength, energy, mental clarity, radiance, immunity, the sharpness of our senses all depend on the food we eat. It's huge. And a lot of us, don't make that association. And that's what we're really going to get into today. The diet is also critical to disease in the body. Unhealthy or inappropriate food choices can easily become the cause of disease, not only in the body, but also in the mind. In Ayurveda, eating is not just about filling our stomach, but it's a really important ritual. And you can see this Dr. Koop quote here that no disease can be cured unless supplemented by the right diet alone. 90% of the diseases can be prevented by the right diet alone. 90%. It's huge. Just by taking care of what we're eating and making sure that it's the correct food for our constitution. That's why it's important to have that, that private consult to figure out your constitution, because not every, food that's deemed healthy may be good for you, and to understand how the foods and the qualities of the food and the taste that we're going to get into today affect your body. So let's look now at how Ayurvedic nutrition versus conventional nutrition. Okay, so why we eat. In conventional nutrition, we eat because maybe of personal preference, habit, body image, emotions. It may be convenience, right? We're just grabbing something on the go. We're notorious for eating in our cars or grabbing something to run. Whereas in Ayurvedic nutrition, we eat to take in prana or life force to live. It's a ritual. It's an important event for taking the food in for nutrients, but also mentally. That's why we ask in Ayurveda that you sit and focus on the food and, be grateful for the food and have that peace while you're eating, because as we know, the emotions can affect your digestion. In conventional nutrition, for the nutritional element, we focus on calories in the West, whereas in Ayurveda, we focus on the 5 elements and the qualities, and this is what we're going to really get in depth to today. We in conventional nutrition, it's the calorie counting and from the different food groups, the food permits that were given by the government, which they turned upside down a few years ago, so it really led to a lot of confusion. Whereas in Ayurveda, we look at how the body processes what we eat. Remember, you are what you eat. In conventional nutrition, whereas in Ayurvedic nutrition, it's you are what you digest. It's not only about what you put in, but making sure your digestive fire is strong enough to cook, if necessary, break down that food and to assimilate it into your body. The importance is put on calorific value, or caloric value, I should say, in conventional nutrition, whereas in Ayurveda, it's all about the individual, respecting the individual's constitution and knowing that there's no one diet, there's no one eating system that's going to fit everybody. This is why some diets work for some people and not for others. In conventional nutrition, it's all about balancing the food ingredients, carbs, fats, proteins. It's mind spinning, trying to get your head around that. Whereas in Ayurveda, it's more logical and intuitive approach and balancing the diet according to your constitution. We're going to really delve into this today. Conventional nutrition depends on the food groups, whereas Ayurveda depends on the taste. We're going to talk about the 6 tastes of Ayurveda today. We're going to run through some guidelines now for eating. Most of you are aware of these, but I really like to go over them again because it is important. Consider how you're feeling, when you're eating, the type of food and the time of day you're eating. Remember, we want that main meal at the middle of the day. How you're feeling, we're talking about, are you feeling heavy? If you're feeling heavy, you want lighter foods. If you're feeling hot, you want cooling foods. If you're feeling dull and cloudy, you want maybe some, and a slow digestion, you want maybe some spicy food, okay? And again, we're going to really delve into this today. Only eating after your previous food is digested. So only when you're hungry, not because the clock says it's lunchtime. Or, first thing in the morning, you feel, oh, I have to eat breakfast. Never forcing yourself to eat. Blessing your food before eating, saying maybe something that you're grateful for that day to create that ritual around food and that really good feeling before you start eating. Do not eat while on the go or watching television. Concentrate on your food. Making sure you're not eating too fast, chewing longer, taking your time, putting your fork down in between bites. Talked about eating in a calm, relaxed state in a pleasant environment. Making a nice place setting, turning off the TV, get away from the computer. Eat food to half your capacity, drinking water to a quarter of your capacity, and leaving room for the food to move in your stomach, to digest, to churn. Eat heavy and sweet foods in less quantity, and eating light food to fill your stomach. So having if you're having courses, having the soup first, and then having the heavier proteins and grains maybe after that if you're having a couple of courses, if you're eating out. The signs of right quantity of food are feeling satisfied, not feeling too heavy, and being able to breathe, talk, and walk easily after a meal. So checking in, making sure that old adage, like we have to eat everything on the plate. Not necessarily, you have to. Some of that was ingrained into some of us when we're small. It's an old way of thinking, of course, because, our parents, like in my case, and their generation before went through famine times in Ireland. So it's always drilled in. You have to clean your plate. So really just connecting with your body and knowing when you're feeling signs of satiation. Times to eat, breakfast. We talked about the circadian rhythms last week. So ideally eating breakfast between 7 and 8:30. Lunch, eating your main meal at the middle of the day when the sun is at its highest, between 12 and 1:30. The digestive fire is strongest. And then dinner, having dinner between 5:30 and 7 p.m., a lighter dinner. Okay, and we're going to incorporate this into the homework, and we discussed why we were doing those times last week. So we're going to continue bringing these things into the homework and into your habits, and over the 6 weeks really instilling them into your routine. Now, choosing the right foods is important as well. Ayurvedic eating is not just generalized. We said there's no one, eating pattern that fits everyone. It's person specific. Eat according to your age and your body constitution. When our elders would have a less of an appetite, and they're not building. As you get older, you're not building as much muscle. You're not growing, so you'll need less. Whereas obviously younger children will need more. And then we take into account our body constitution, whether we're Vata, Pitta, or Kapha. Eating fresh, local, seasonal vegetables and fruit. That's going to be part of your homework this week. Going to your local farmer's market, or checking out in your local supermarket, what's in season right now. Being aware of what's in season. Making yourself more in tune with what nature is giving us. And remember, what nature gives us this time of year is what's going to keep us in balance. Eating freshly cooked and warm food, so it's easier to digest. And like we said earlier, so it's easy to access the prana, the life force of that food. Eating food which has enough oil and is moist enough, but of course not fried, but we want to make sure it's moist enough, particularly for Vata dosha, which is naturally dry by nature. During times of difficulty digesting, avoid cruciferous vegetables that produce more gas, like cauliflower and broccoli, Brussels sprouts. Again, particularly for Vata, their digestive fire the flame is like a gas flame flickering on and off. So those items can really produce gas for you. Avoiding fried foods when your digestion feels sluggish, particularly for women, maybe premenstrual or during the cycle, the digestion can be weaker. So giving yourself some easy digestible foods, and avoiding heavy sweets at this time as well. Do not eat food with the wrong combination. We're going to talk about that now, food combinations. And Ayurveda gives us lots of information on what combinations of food are good and what's not good. So let's check that out now. Before I go forward, if you want to ask any questions, feel free to type in the chat box. Like I said, we have a lot of information to cover today, but don't hesitate to ask questions. And this is, information as we go into the next few slides that you're going to want to go back over and maybe look at again. And I will be giving you the next couple of slides, which are food combinations. I'm going to be giving you these as a PDF file separate, so you maybe can keep them on your fridge and you don't have to memorize them, just over this. I really want you to just draw awareness around it. So we see beans here. Now, Ayurveda states that beans are not compatible with fruit, milk, cheese, yogurt, eggs, meat, or fish. Okay, supportive combinations would be grains, vegetables, other beans, nuts, or seeds. Now, in the next few weeks, I want you to maybe, like I said, print these sheets out, and I'll give them to you in the email for a printable view, and you can just draw attention to it of the next few weeks. Are you making wrong food combinations right now, and are they affecting your body or your mind? Butter and ghee. Butter may not combine with other foods as universally as ghee. Ghee is always better, and you certainly, if you've done the cleanse, you've seen and felt the benefits of ghee. For cheese, cheese does not combine well with fruit, beans, eggs, milk. So you think of quiches, stuff like that, yogurt or hot drinks. For milk, any food basically, milk is not great because it sours the food, especially bananas, cherries, melons, sour fruits, yeasted breads, eggs, yogurt, meat, fish, khichdi, and starches. And this is dairy. Whereas, nut milks would be okay in these combinations. And so this is relating just to dairy here. For yogurt again is like milk, it sours food. So yogurt and fruit, which is a common combination, right? Yogurt parfaits, something I definitely used to eat a lot in the past. Yogurt with a sliced banana is really not great, or yogurt with beans. Again, all you can see with the rest of the dairy, cheese, eggs, meat, fish. Nightshades are white potatoes, tomatoes, and eggplant. They are considered nightshades. And yogurt with hot drinks. Eggs are not great and not compatible with milk, cheese, yogurt, fruit, especially melons. But melons are best eaten alone. Beans, khichdi, potatoes, meat, or fish. So again, just seeing how if you're incorporating these foods in your diet, and then you can have a look at the supportive combinations, and just being aware of that this week. We have another slide here. Fruits. Ayurveda, and I'm sure you heard me say this before, if you've taken another course or done the cleanse with me, fruits are best eaten alone because they digest fast. If you eat fruit after a meal, that meal, maybe of protein or carbs, takes a long time to digest, whereas fruit is high in water and it digests fast. So it ferments in the body. So if you have a heavy meal and then you have fruit for dessert, that fruit is fermenting in the body because it's sitting behind that heavier, sluggish food. Some exceptions with fruits are dates with milk, or some cooked combinations like stewed apples. Sometimes we can put stewed apples with some spices and some ghee, and that's okay. Okay. The supportive combinations here would be other fruits with similar qualities, like citrus together, or apples and pears. They're both astringent fruits, or a berry medley. That's fine. For lemons, they don't combine well with cucumbers, tomatoes, milk, yogurt, but lime can be substituted with cucumbers and tomatoes. It's not as harsh with those combinations. Melons, like I said earlier, are best eaten alone. The old starter of melons and Parma ham, I think it was. So really best eaten alone, especially with dairy, eggs, fried food, grains, and starches. Grains do not combine well with fruit. So we don't want to put those together in any combination. Vegetables do not combine well with fruit or milk. And then nightshades, like I said, that's peppers, eggplant, white potatoes, and tomatoes, do not combine well with fruit, especially melon, cucumber, milk, cheese, or yogurt. So there's a lot of information there. Print it out, have a look at it, familiarize yourself, see if there's any foods right now you're eating that are a poor combination, and maybe switch it up over the next couple of weeks. Okay, any questions before we move on there from food combinations? Okay. So next, the qualities of the food. Now, we have to consider the qualities before we make our choices. What is the natural quality of the food? And this is what I encourage people to look at. We're not looking at the grams of protein, carbs and fats in our food. Ayurveda makes it more simplistic. And at the start, it can, the information can seem a lot, but it is logical and simplistic. It's just a different way for us to look at it. So when you look at a plate of food, is it heavy like oatmeal? Is it light like popcorn? Is it, warming like chilies? What is the quality of that food? We talk about how root vegetables are heavy and grounding. They come from the earth, so they're great for vata. Or coconut is considered cooling, so it's really great for pitta. Or soup is light and warm, so it's great for kapha. We're going to, again, go more in depth to this. I'm getting you slowly there. So we're going to go in and talk about all these qualities in depth in a moment. Now, the qualities of the food may change due to processing. So if you're kapha, I may have talked to you about roasting your grains like oatmeal before you cook with them because it makes them lighter. Evaporating milk makes it heavier. Ghee has a higher burning point because it has no milk solid. So when we process food, we also have to be aware of how those qualities change. We talked about combining foods can change their qualities, like in the previous slides we just discussed. The quantity of our food, how much we eat. In Ayurveda, this suggests you eat how much is in your two hands cupped together. That should be your serving. And then you take a break, and maybe 15-20 minutes before you have another serving, allow that food to digest, and then see if you really feel those signs of hunger for a second portion. Now, the environment where the food is cultivated affects the food quality too. For example, like peppers grown in Canada will be less pungent than those grown in Texas. Texas has that intensity, long, hot summer. Whereas Canada, it's more northern, has the sun in summer, but it's less intense. So those foods will be affected by that also. Raw food has a very different quality than ripe food. For example, a raw mango is considered sour, but when it ripens, it becomes very, very sweet. We also talked about how eating raw food while high in prana is very difficult for many people to access those nutrients, because when we put raw food in the body, in the case of salads, that the body has to, or if you're eating raw carrots, raw veg, the body has to heat the body back up first, because you just put cold raw foods in the body has to heat itself back up, then cook the food, then digest it, then assimilate the nutrients. So that can be very harsh on the body as well. So any questions on the qualities of the food? Okay, so now we're going to go even further into the qualities. We're going to talk about the gunas. Now, the ancient texts of Ayurveda give us 20 gunas, or 10 pairs of opposites. And theoretically, everything in the universe, every natural thing in the universe can be described in terms of these qualities. Heavy, light, cold, hot, oily, dry, dull, sharp, smooth, rough, dense, liquid, soft, hard, static, mobile, gross, subtle, cloudy, clear. 10 pairs of opposites. There are gunas associated with each element, with each dosha or constitution type, with each food, with each symptom of ailments. And so it's extremely important, because this is really the foundation of Ayurveda. Like increases like, and opposites balance. That's the main teaching in Ayurveda. And it's quite simplistic, but we need to kind of shift our way of thinking to this more simplistic method. So like, here's a simple example before we go on. If a person is high pitta and prone to the classic pitta symptoms of like heartburn, skin rashes, irritability, maybe repeated infections, we would conclude that this person has heat in their body, right? Has excess heat. So in order to treat the hot, we would employ the cold guna, give cooling foods, cooling herbs. Like cooling foods would be coconut and peppermint, and cooling herbs would be like cilantro and again peppermint. We would have cooling breath like the Shitali breath we do in pranayama, which causes a cooling effect on the body. We would have them back off intensity, tell them to go for a walk on the beach, put their feet in the cool water. So lots of cooling. That's that approach that Ayurveda gives us. We relate more to how we feel in our body and then bring in the opposite qualities. So Ayurveda encourages us to get in tune into our body and use our intuition when it comes to healing. Ayurveda shows us how our body naturally relates to food, to disease, and the environment. It helps us articulate our experiences with food and the body in meaningful ways. It highlights what you perhaps already felt about food, giving it meaning and showing you the therapeutic value of your experience. This experiential approach is known as the Guna method. The Guna method is the foundation of the Ayurvedic way of thinking, and Ayurveda's most valuable contribution to your personal health practice. This technique, while it's new information and it's something you have to get used to, this way of thinking, the technique is simple, it's practical, and it's visceral. So you can easily grasp the nature of food, your imbalances, and what you need to heal. There's no, like in the Western approach, there's no, facts or data or figures. And while the Western approach is valuable, it can leave you feeling disassociated from your feelings and from your intuition and unable to make decisions on your own. We have to go to experts or in that field to kind of guide us. Whereas in Ayurveda, what I encourage my clients is I want to empower you to become your own healer, to take on this, to learn this wisdom. And this is wisdom for life that you could carry through for your own health, for your family's health, and you can help others, friends, and just introduce them to this simplistic way of living so that we're not dependent on others. We know our body best. We just need to reconnect. The gunas reconnect us to the naturally healthy relationship between our body, our food, and our environment. So we're going to start by translating what we might be feeling after a meal using the guna list. And once you've translated your experiences into gunas, Ayurveda shows us the gunas you need to restore balance. All right, so let's get started. Let's break down these gunas. Okay, so the heavy guna. Okay, think of heaviness, the heavy quality. It's going to build tissues in the body. It's going to create heaviness in the body and maybe in excess, right? So heavy guna may cause obesity. It may cause dull thinking. And we're going to start with a brief description, and we're going to go into how each of these gunas relate to your dosha. And then its opposite quality, light, helps to reduce weight and increase energy. Makes sense. Cold substances, cold environment can create cooling in the body. Whereas heat increases the digestive fire. It promotes expansion, perspiration. Think of going for a run. Think of eating hot chili peppers. But if in excess, it can create irritability and anger. Oily produces lubrication, moisture, smoothness. On an emotional level, it can produce love and compassion. That's when we do our oily Abhyanga self-massage. Oil in Sanskrit, snehana, has two meanings, oiling and love. So it produces compassion for ourselves when we put that oil on our body, and love, giving ourselves some self-love, some self-compassion. The opposite, dryness. Dry substances in a dry environment can produce itchy skin, dandruff, and dry stools. Dull quality creates sluggishness. It slows down action. It neutralizes excessive acids in the body, right? So you think of, that could be good for pitta. Sharp, the opposite quality. We think of sharp as like pungent, spicy, heat, intense, helps to break down the food chains and digest food. The smooth quality. We think of smooth sauces that creates moisture and lubrication. Whereas the rough would be like salads, raw food, it's rough, helps reduce blockages. It would be like fiber in the channels, right? Don't worry, we're going to repeat this information over and over again. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be repeating this similar information to really, get it into your mind, and we'll repeat these gunas over and over again. So don't be overwhelmed. Just take it, as an overall look today. And then each week, I'm just going to reinforce this. We're repeating the same information. The dense guna, it increases viscosity and promotes cohesiveness and solidity. Whereas the liquid guna, if we think of soups and more liquidy foods, it's a liquefying action. It helps carry nutrients to the different tissues and removes the waste. So think about it if you're dehydrated, and if you're lacking liquid in your body, you're going to be constipated. The wastes are going to be staying in your body, in your bowels, causing toxins. The soft guna causes looseness and suppleness in the tissues, whereas the hard guna creates strength, rigidity, hardness, and makes the tissues stable and strong. The static guna, so think of static as when yoga, meditation, it has a strengthening, stabilizing, and enduring action. It produces support and firmness. Whereas the mobile guna has a laxative effect, stimulating action and promotes movement. The gross guna creates grossness in the body, bulkiness. It covers the other tissues. It can cause obesity and decreases agni, decreases the digestive fire, because it has a spreading effect in the body. Whereas subtle, light, it can pass through minute channels and break down the obstructions easily and can pervade the entire body. So it's the opposite effect. Finally, the cloudy guna, it has the action of adhering or causing cloudiness, fogginess maybe, creates sliminess, heaviness, coating. Whereas the clear guna removes the cloudiness, removes the heaviness, and creates clarity of thought, vision, and the mind. So again, there's a lot of information there, and it's a lot of new information. But now what I want to do is reinforce this by talking about each constitution and how it relates to you. We need to start first is relating it to yourself, so you can have a personal experience of this, and then you can start relating it to others in your life. So we start first with ourselves first, so we can become in balance and relate it personally, and then we can start thinking how it affects is in our lives and with other people. So let's look at now how these gunas manifest in the body. We're going to start with the Vata dosha. So Vata, the qualities of Vata, which is made up of air and space, are dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, and clear. We talked about how Vata in nature is like the wind. So these are the qualities of the wind. The wind is dry, it's light, it's blowing around. It can be cold. It can be rough, causing dryness of the skin. It can be, constantly moving, clearing things. So the dryness in the body of Vata manifests as dry skin, hair, tongue, lips, nails, maybe dry colon causing constipation, maybe a hoarse voice, dryness in the voice. How do we balance that? If you're Vata and you notice these symptoms, particularly in the fall and winter season, when it's the Vata season, these qualities can become really aggravated. Well, then we're going to bring in the oily, the opposite quality. Good fats in the diet, moist food with sauces, liquids, oily massage, getting oil externally on our body, on our skin, which will be eventually soaked in, and internally. The light guna of Vata can manifest itself in being underweight. Vata is very light and thin in the body. Light muscles and bones, a light frame, maybe light sleep. Vata people tend to suffer from insomnia. How do we bring in the opposite quality? Heaviness, grounding foods, root vegetables. You look at your food, it should look heavy. Oatmeal, stews, maybe some good quality meats ground you down. Less popcorn, less lightness, more foods that have good fats, heavy activities, less of the running around and high activity exercises, which we're going to talk about later. More grounding yoga, restorative yoga, yin yoga. The cold quality can manifest for Vata: cold hands and feet, poor circulation. You'll definitely feel a dislike to the cold weather and can lead to stiff muscles, So we need to bring in the hot qualities, the hot guna, warm foods, warming spices. Warming spices will be like cinnamon is warming, ginger, get the digestive fire going, black pepper in moderation, and a warming environment. All these are really balancing for vata. Rough quality manifests as rough skin. Vata tends to have dry skin, rough nails, hair, cracking joints. Again, we need to bring the smooth of good fats, creamy sauces. You can have pasta with the creamy, good sauces, ghee, really introducing that smooth quality. Again, massage. For subtle guna, that can manifest as fear, anxiety, insecurity, fine tremors in the body, muscle twitching, addictions. Caffeine can cause this. Caffeine can cause anxiety with vata, maybe the tremors after drinking too much caffeine. It can cause a little bit of palpitations. Remember, vata is responsible for all movement in the body. So it's just going to really increase that movement. We need to bring in the gross quality, grounding foods, grounding activities. We talked about coffee is not great for vata, caffeine's not great, but if you are having it, how do you ground that coffee? If you are having it on a special occasion, put some ghee in the coffee. Put some, they make coffee now, the bulletproof coffee with the butter in it. That's going to ground that coffee a little bit, but it's not great for vata. So always thinking about how do you ground your food if you're feeling these tremors in the body, you're feeling your mind spinning, which is something that can be really a typical sign of aggravation for vata. Remember, you're made up of air and space, so there's a lot of mental activity. So once you find yourself going into that anxiety, that fear, okay, I need grounding. I need to slow down. I need to meditate. I need to do slow yoga. Maybe today is not the day for me to go for my run. I need some grounding foods. The mobile quality can be shown in vata, like fast walking, fast talking, multitasking, restlessness, mood swings, maybe many dreams, that constant need to be out and about, traveling, scattered mind. Again, just like I said a moment ago, and I'm going to repeat, static. We need to slow it down. Actions, grounding foods. So drawing awareness around that if your vata dosha is getting high. Clear quality will manifest as understanding and forgetting information quickly. So picking it up fast, but forgetting it fast too. Clairvoyancy. But it also can manifest as that feeling of the void or that loneliness. That can be something that vata can feel. And again, noticing those tendencies and just knowing, okay, I know what this quality is. This is a sign in my body. If I'm feeling lonely or feeling a voidness, it's a sign, a subtle sign in my body that my vata is aggravated. So let me bring in some cloudiness, bring in some food and environment to create heaviness and calmness. Now, we know to create the heaviness and food, we're going to look for good grounding food, nurturing food, stews, meats, bone broth. We talk about oatmeal. We need to ground it, but also how do you create a calmness in your environment, making sure you don't have any drafts, wearing a scarf around your neck, creating a cocoon for yourself, a nice, comforting environment, not having a lot of stimulation. Make sure that the TV's not on or the music's not on when you're working. Calm it down. If you are working in a cafe or have to work outside, get some noise cancelling headphones. If you have trouble sleeping, putting some cotton wool in your ears or plugs, create that cocoon effect. Oftentimes vata like to curl up in their blankets. And maybe this isn't your dosha, but maybe it's your child's dosha, or maybe it's your friend's dosha or your partner's dosha. So this information can still be good for everybody, okay? And it can help you relate to people. And the reason it's important for us to understand the other doshas, and it was huge for me when I learned this, I have compassion for these people. So I understand if my vata friends are, that they need to talk, that their mind might be all over the place, that they're jumping from subject to subject. I understand that they're a little ungrounded and they just need someone, maybe to listen, have someone to talk to, more calming. And this is how we have more compassion for each other. Okay, so maybe this doesn't relate to you, but it's important for you to know for others. Okay, let's move on now to Pitta dosha. So the Pitta, it's the sun's heat, right? In nature, it's hot, it's intense, it's made up of fire and water. The qualities are hot, sharp, light, oily, liquid, mobile, and acidic. The hot guna is going to manifest as a strong appetite. We're the people, I say we're because I'm Pitta primarily, we're the people who get hangry when we're hungry, right? We need snacks. If you have a Pitta partner or a child, you keep snacks on you so they don't lose it when they're hungry. It will manifest as a high body temperature. All of a sudden, we may feel hot. May cause early graying, baldness, or receding the hairline. What do we do when we're feeling hot? We bring in cold, cooling foods, cooling environment, cooling activities, back off the intensity. Maybe we need to back off that perfection that we always strive for. Maybe we don't need to go out and run in the middle of the day. Instead, I'm going to chill out. I'm going to do restorative yoga. I'm going to eat some cooling foods, maybe some coconut water. I'm going to have some fennel, something that's cooling, less spice. The sharp quality. In our body, it manifests as sharp features, sharp nose, eyes, chin, sharp memory, a sharp tongue. We can say things that hurt people sometimes. Just know that. Catch yourself before you do it. We also have a sharp intellect, a sharp intolerance of hard work. We tend to push ourselves, type A's, but we need to back off. Sharp irritability, a probing mind. We always want to go deeper. But when we see those qualities becoming out of hand, when we see ourselves getting irritable, being irritable with others, snapping at others, we need to bring in the dull guna, smoothness, mild food, stay away from the spice, stay away from the alcohol, the stimulants, calming activities, calming environment. The light quality is going to be a sense of a sight. So the light, sight is the eyes are the organ. Pittas tend to have light sensitivity. We have a light or medium body frame, a sensitivity to light, like I just said, bright eyes, fair, shiny skin. But this light quality any light sensitivity, we need to bring in, if we're noticing our eyes are very sensitive, bloodshot eyes, feeling like a headache around the eyes, then we need to bring in the heavy qualities again of grounding foods, grounding activities, backing off. It's all about less perfectionism and more calm, and take life in its stride. Not everything doesn't have to be so serious. Grab hold of your cough a friend who's happy-go-lucky. Just remember backing off. The oily quality manifests as oily skin, hair, maybe oily feces, sensitivity to oily foods. So we need to bring in more dry foods, a dry environment, less oil, definitely less fried foods. The liquid quality manifests as excess urine. If you find that you're going to the bathroom a lot, urinating a lot, that can be a sign of a Pitta imbalance. Excess thirst, excess sweat, loose stool. This is a really good sign and fast sign that your Pitta is in balance. I think I said Vata a moment ago. Excuse me, we're talking about Pitta. But the minute you see those stools getting loose, that's a sign that you need to bring in the cooling qualities of Pitta. In this case, we want to bring in dense, less liquids. Sometimes Pitta people can tend to be obsessive about drinking so much water. Watch out for that if you're forcing yourself to drink. Okay, we're going to talk about how much water to drink as well today in your homework. The mobile quality can cause rash or acne, infection, inflammation, mobility in the body. It's moving around the body. And again, we need to bring in the static, balancing guna, stabilizing foods, calming environment, static activities. And finally, the acidic quality can cause acidic pH, a sour acid stomach, a strong acidic odor to our sweat, to our urine, and to our bowel movements. It can also cause burning sensation, all that excess heat, heartburn, maybe causes strong feelings of hate and anger. That's a sign of a Pitta imbalance. We need to bring in alkaline quality, alkaline foods, compassion, understanding, and empathy. Okay. And finally, we're going to talk about kapha. So kapha is made up of the qualities of earth and water. And it's the qualities, natural qualities of kapha are heavy, dull, cold, oily, smooth, static, and cloudy. Now, how do these qualities manifest in kapha? Well, heavy is going to have heavy bones and muscles, maybe a large body frame, tend to be rounder figures, tendency to be overweight, but they're very grounded kapha people, maybe have a deep, heavy voice, great singers. And if you're feeling excess heaviness in the body, well, then we want to bring in the light guna, more light foods, easy digestible foods, soups, lighter things that are easy to digest, less heavy, less comfort food. The dull quality can manifest in like slow walking, slow talking, slow digestion, slow metabolism, sluggish gestures, a slowness in the mind. So we need to bring in sharp, like digestive spices. Kapha can have all those spices, which are all spices are pretty much digestive spices. So that's great for kapha to stimulate the digestion and to stimulate the digestive fire and to stimulate that morning hunger, which kapha often doesn't have. The cold quality can lead to cold, clammy skin, repeated colds, coughs, congestion, particularly in springtime when it's kapha season and the kapha energy is high in the environment. So at that time, if you're feeling congested, sinusitis, things like that, a chesty cough, we want to bring in hot, warming foods, warming spices to liquefy that congestion, like turmeric and black pepper, clove, and warming activities. Get that body moving, get the sweat going, get the circulation going. The oily quality can manifest as, well lubricated skin, so it's a good thing, and good joints. But if we feel that oiliness is getting too much, we want to bring in drier foods, less oil. And a drier environment is best for kapha, less humidity, because we all already have a lot of water. We're made up of earth and water, so we tend to retain water. So less water is best for us. The humid weather is not great for kapha. Smooth quality manifest in the body, a smooth skin, a gentle mind, it's calm nature, caring, kindness. Kapha people tend to be natural caretakers, that real mother earth figure. But if we find that it's going too far, like it's becoming possessive, we'll talk about this, how it manifests in the mind, that it's becoming the smooth can go too much in that nature, where we can get overrun by people, or that we can kapha can become more possessive or more isolate themselves. Well, then we need to bring in more roughness, more dietary fiber to move things along, especially if we're feeling that stagnation. The static quality tends to attract a sedentary lifestyle. More sleeping kaphas love to sleep, more stagnation kaphas love to sit and chat, less movement. So we need to bring in mobility, more movement, more variety in activities, less of the same old, right? Less of the same old habits. Finally, the cloudy quality can often lead to fogginess and in the mind, and slowness in the morning, like wanting to sleep in. But we need to bring in more clear foods, more inspiration. So maybe you surround yourself with inspirational people. And maybe that pitta friend is going to be like, yes, let's go. Or the vata friend is going to be all excited and moving a lot. So they're great for kapha. An environment that's clarity of mind, that's, clearing out your space, so less clutter. Kapha can tend to, like I said, that possessiveness, maybe holding on to things, emotional attachment to food and objects, clearing it out of your home. A clarity of thought and vision, so reading more inspirational books, surrounding yourself with people who are inspiring and going to motivate you. Okay, so there's a lot of information there. But again, it's about today it's really about just the overall picture, and it's going to take time to bring this into your life. But again, just creating awareness. Okay, any questions on that before we go forward? And now we're going to go forward into the tastes and how the tastes have gunas as well. So any questions there before we go forward? Okay, no questions. So as I said, this is one that you're going to want to go back to and take notes and really look over again and maybe print out. I'm going to send these slides out in PDF too. So maybe printing some of them out and just reminding yourself of them. So now let's go on to taste. So this is another layer. And again, we're going to be repeating this information over and over again. So don't be overwhelmed. This is going to repeat over and over again over the 6 weeks. So it will be really solidified by the end of the 6 weeks. Now, taste is huge in Ayurveda. Taste, or rasa as it's called in Sanskrit, has a number of meanings. Taste can mean an experience, enthusiasm, juice, essence of something, the plasma in our body. All these are the meanings of taste. So you can see that the diverse meanings of this word show the significance of taste in Ayurvedic tradition. Now, our first interaction with a food or herb or experience begins with the body, and in case of taste or an herb or food, begins with the tongue and our sense of taste. And according to Ayurveda, it's very important for us to taste our foods and our herbs and even our life. So it's really deep, and we don't think about this really in Western world. So this is a really new concept. This Ayurveda sees taste, or rasa, as a very powerful therapeutic tool that determines not only how we experience our food, but ultimately the overall flavor of our existence. Taste is given a much deeper significance that we're used to in the West. It's considered critically important in determining the effect of a food, a spice, a herb, an effect of an experience will have on our state of balance of our mind, body, and soul. Now, by understanding the way that the tastes affect the three doshas, the constitutions, you can choose foods and herbs that will create balance and healing for your dosha. Every substance is made up of some combo of the 5 elements. The 6 tastes have certain qualities or gunas that are attributes to their 2 primary elements. I'm going to look at that now. And as with most things in Ayurveda, the combination of taste that's right for you depends a lot on your constitution, your age, your environment, the season. So as you say, you can stay at an easy level Ayurveda, but the more it's like an onion, the more you go into it, the deeper it gets. And for me, the more fascinating it gets. In other words, while each taste is necessary for all of us, the specifics are determined by the context of each individual and may change over time. So let's look at the taste. All right, sweet. Sweet is made up of the elements of earth and water. Now, sweet, as we see, is on the 2 columns on the right. It increases kapha and it decreases or balances pitta and vata. So let's look at how the sweet affects the body. It's nourishing to the body. It builds and strengthens the tissue. It gives the body vitality and is grounding. So let's think of that in terms of kapha. Well, it's going to increase kapha because kapha by nature have a more rounder body. They're more grounded. So they don't really need too much sweet taste because they're already grounded by nature. They already have a lot of tissues, they're already big body, full body by nature. Whereas vata are very slight and slim. So they need that strengthening of tissues. They need that nourishing, and they need that grounding of the body. Okay, so we can see now how the tastes affect the body. Now, other things that the sweet taste does also, it nourishes the body and the senses. It relieves thirst, which is why it's great for pitta, and it relieves heartburn. So the right amount of sweet taste can be balancing to pitta also. Again, you're going to need these as printouts, which I will send them to you. Don't worry. Okay, let's look at the sour taste. Sour, the elemental composition is earth and fire. So let's think of what has earth. Well, kapha has earth in it, right? And Pitta has fire. So look at what it increases. It will increase Kapha and Pitta. But Vata doesn't have those elements. Remember, Vata is made up of air and space. So Vata needs earth, grounding, and fire stimulation. So it's going to balance Vata, right? It's going to bring it back down. So the sour taste stimulates the acid secretions in the body. So we also already know that Pitta is acidic by nature. So it doesn't need any of that stimulation. It enhances the appetite. Pitta already has a strong appetite. It doesn't need any enhancing, whereas Vata has an irregular appetite, so it needs that. And it aids digestion. Okay, again, very good for Vata. The sour taste also helps to, not only helps to digestion, but it reduces gas. We know that Vata in the body is wind, can create a lot of gas, and increases circulation and works on sharpening the senses as well. Now we're going to talk a moment about where these examples of these tastes in food. So that's going to come next in the next slide. The salty taste, the qualities, the composition of salt is water and fire. Kapha and Pitta have water in them already, so it's going to increase Kapha and Pitta. And Pitta already has fire in its elemental composition, so it's going to increase Pitta with the fire, but it's going to decrease or balance Vata, right? So salt strengthens the digestive fire, so it's great for Vata, and it's going to maintain the electrolyte balance. Again, Vata can be dry by nature, so it's going to be great for helping Vata. Where salt goes, remember, water goes. So it's going to be great for keeping that moisture of Vata. Okay, let's now go into pungent. Pungent, remember, is spicy. Pungent has the qualities of fire and air. The elements, I should say, of fire and air. Okay, so what element has fire? Pitta. Or what dosha has fire is Pitta, and Vata has air. So it's going to increase both of those. But pungent is going to balance Kapha. Kapha, remember, is made up of earth and water. It needs fire and air. It needs that stimulation. It needs more spaciness. So pungent helps with digestion. Think of like digestive spices, like heating spices like cinnamon and things like black pepper. All these are ginger. All these are going to really help Kapha with digestion. It reduces congestion in the body, because we know when you eat really hot food and you start sweating and your nose starts running. So think about it, logically, what happens when you eat that spice, that Tabasco sauce? Your nose starts running, so it's going to liquefy that Kapha congestion, and it's also going to be drying on the body. So, we know Vata is dry, so we don't need to make Vata any more dry, but we know Kapha retains water, so it's going to be good for that. Okay, we're going to look at astringent next. Astringent is dry, is a drying effect on the body. It's made up of air and earth. Okay, so Vata has air, so it's going to increase Vata. So look at the qualities of the effect of astringent on the body. It's going to be cooling, drying. Astringent taste stops bleeding. Things like turmeric is astringent. They're known for putting turmeric on cuts to stop the bleeding, and it stops the flow in the body. So it's going to increase Vata, because Vata is all about flow and movement. So we don't want any more astringent tastes, or to have excess astringent tastes for Vata, but it will balance Kapha and Pitta. Okay, don't worry, we're going to talk more and more about this. I know it's a lot, but we're going to repeat and repeat again and again. And finally, the bitter taste is made up of air and space. The effect on the body is cooling. It's light. Think of bitter as antibacterial, antiviral. It's also antibiotic. And air and space, what's that? That's the same elements as the Vata constitution. It's going to therefore increase Vata, but it's going to decrease or balance Kapha and Pitta. Kapha needs more lightness. It needs more space. And Pitta needs more cooling. So it's going to be great for that. So now let's go into, okay, so what are these tastes? How do I find these tastes in food? And again, it's new for us. We don't think in terms this way. So take it in your stride. This is something very different from our Western approach. So let's look at it again. Vata. Vata needs to favor sweet, sour, and salty. It's going to be very balancing for Vata. But Vata needs to avoid bitter, pungent, and astringent. That's going to be too drying for Vata. Pitta needs to favor sweet, astringent, and bitter tastes, but needs to avoid pungent, sour, and salty. That pungent, spicy food is going to just make a volcano out of Pitta. And that sour and salty the sour is too sharp a taste for Pitta, and the salty is too sharp. Kapha needs to favor pungent, astringent, and bitter. It needs that kick. It needs that drying of it, the astringency, but needs to avoid sweet, sour, and salty. Remember, the sweet builds the tissues. Kapha is already, heavy in the body already, so it doesn't need excess sweet. And the salt is just going to cause kapha to retain more water, already retaining a lot of water. So here are samples of these tastes. Sweet would be like sweet fruits. Grains are considered sweet. Pasta, rice, bread. Root vegetables are sweet. Sugar, meat, chicken, fish, honey, milk are also considered sweet. Now, some of them are obvious, right? Honey, maple syrup is also sweet. That's obvious. Fruits, right? That's all obvious. But then there's new things. Oh, grain. Well, think of grains. Bread, they're carbohydrates, right? They break down into sugar, therefore it's sweet. So if you think about it how we think about it in the Western world. Sour, obviously sour fruits, sour berries, pineapple has a sour taste, tomatoes, pickled fermented foods, yogurt is sour, alcohol, vinegar, and cheese. Salty would be all the salts. Soy sauce, salted meats and fish, seaweeds, salted nuts, chips, pretzels, canned foods, dehydrated food. You don't have a lot of salt. Processed foods have a lot of salt in them. Pungent would be like peppers, chilies, ginger, black pepper, cloves, cayenne pepper, garlic, wasabi, mustard, radishes. They have that kick to them. Raw onions, raw garlic. I said garlic twice. It's very pungent. Turnips and salsa. Astringent is one that's funny for us to think of, but basically astringent was anything that you put into your mouth that has a drying effect. So beans, if you put some beans in your mouth, the beans soak up the moisture. Not that you're putting dried beans in your mouth very often, but just think of that. Anything that soaks up the moisture. You put cranberries into your mouth, cause you to pucker, anything like that. Pomegranate. Turmeric is very astringent. That's why I talked about putting turmeric paste on a cut to stop it from bleeding. Leafy green vegetables, very astringent. Broccoli, cauliflower, that's why they're not recommended to Vata. It's very drying and gas producing. Popcorn, rice cakes, black tea, all these are astringent. The bitter taste would be bitter is coffee, like that acidic taste. Green leafy vegetables, kale, dandelion, these are all great for Pitta. Okay, and for kapha, collard greens, celery, broccoli, sprouts, neem. Neem is a Indian leaf, and you can actually buy in the States, at least, you can buy neem tablets or supplements, which are great for cooling pitta in the summer. Aloe vera. You put aloe vera, it's bitter. You put the inside gel of an aloe vera plant on your cuts. And it's very cooling, right, for a rash. And I'm going to talk about that in the last week where we were talking about how to cure ailments with herbs and spices. So we're repeating all this again. Fenugreek, bitter melon, these are all bitter. Okay? So yeah, it's a few new things to get our heads around here, right? So any questions on that? And again, this is something you're going to have to review. The next thing we're going to go on and talk to is how these tastes affect the mind and emotions. But before we go on, I want to see if there's any questions. No? So I'm like, okay, I need to review this again. Vata, okay. So thanks, Sharon, for your question. Vata, as a Vata, I don't eat meat or chicken. Okay. So in that case, you can, or pasta, but you can do other foods. So sometimes Ayurveda will recommend some vata if they're very imbalanced, and they eat meat, to have some meat for grounding. But you can seek that in other alternatives. So remember, you have to take into consideration with your lifestyle if you're a vegetarian or vegan. So you're going to choose more grounding root vegetables. If it's not, if you don't like the meat or chicken and you don't mind bone broth, if it's not a vegan or vegetarian thing, you can have some bone broth. If you don't like pasta, well, that's fine. Then you're just going to use other grains. So there's a lot. I mean, these are just samples of the different tastes. I can't put every food here, but so you just have to take it in relation to your constitution. So if you're Vata and you don't eat meat or pasta or bread, then you would look at rice, and you would look at other grains, more heavier grains, less quinoa. But if you're having quinoa, you think of quality of quinoa in your Vata, it's light. So you're going to need to put some sauce or ghee in that to kind of make it a little bit more grounding. But definitely, yeah, it's you have to think of it of when you're out of balance and how each taste relates. Now, of course, Ayurveda recommends that we have all 6 tastes in our diet, that we have a balance, and when we have a balance of these 6 tastes in our diet, that's when we really feel satiated and we really feel full and complete. But when we're out of balance, we need to go, okay, I'm feeling heavy, so I'm going to avoid sweet and salty. Or I'm feeling like I'm, really spacey today. I feel like I'm up in the clouds. I'm going to avoid spicy and astringent and bitter. Or I'm feeling like I'm irritable today. I'm biting people's heads off. I'm getting heartburn. I'm going to avoid spicy, sour, and salty. Okay? So relating it to your moods, and let's see how now it affects your mind and the emotions. And again, we're going to talk about the mind next week and the qualities of mind. So this is just a little taster, and we go more into detail on this next week. But the sweet taste, the action of the mind is that of compassion and satisfaction. Okay, remember, sweet is it's like a kapha quality, and kapha is known for that caring. However, when we have sweet in excess, it causes that kapha tendencies of imbalance, the attachment, the possessiveness, right? So everything always has to be in balance, and we're checking in with ourselves daily and seeing how we're feeling and our qualities. It's all about reading yourself and going inward and seeing how you're feeling. The sour taste can help with discrimination and stimulation. We talked about how the sour taste is really good for Vata. So it helps with that sharpness for Vata. But if we overindulge in sour, it can cause envy, jealousy, and anger. And you see that they are kind of the qualities of Pitta when the Pitta is imbalanced. The salty taste, the effect on our mind is that of confidence and the zest for life. So but when we overindulge, it can cause greed and overambition. The pungent taste, the spicy, can cause extroversion, boldness. But when we overindulge in spicy food, it can lead to anger, hatred, and violence. The astringent taste, that drying, can cause introversion. But when we overindulge in that dryness, it can cause insecurity or fear. The bitter taste, action on the mind is dissatisfaction and isolation. But if we overindulge in bitter, it's going to cause grief and sorrow. That's just a little taste for next week, okay? Because next week we're going to go into the mind, the quality of the mind, and the emotions. But that's just to start getting your mind going, oh, wow, the taste affects how my body reacts to food, and also the mind. And a question just came in, why would we want bitter at all? Well, we do want a little bit of bitter. We want bitter for Pitta and for Kapha. This is an excess. The grief and sorrow causes an excess of bitterness. But for the bitterness for Pitta is going to have a more cooling effect on the body. And it's going to have a more drying effect for Kapha. So, but in excess, it can lead to grief or sorrow. Okay, and that's the effects on the mind when the mind is out of balance. But we do need all the six tastes in balance. This is if it's overindulgence. Okay, I hope that answers your question. And again, we're going to get more into the mental qualities next week. Just giving you, while we're talking about the taste, a little sense of what's going to happen if we go into too much of that. Any other questions on that? So the taste, it's important. Like we said, not to overindulge. Yes, you're asked about the bitter taste. Psychologically has a tendency of like that introspection. An individual will be more able to see reality more clearly with the bitter taste. So for kapha, that's great. But in excess, it can lead to that isolation and that grief and that loneliness. But for kapha, a little bit of bitterness is really going to be able to get rid of that cloudiness and that fogginess in the brain and just cause more clarity. All right, let's move on. So now what happens if there's underindulgence of the taste? Okay, well, if there's too little sweet, it's going to lead to weak tissues and debility of the body. If there's too little of sourness, it's going to lead to an acid imbalance. If there's too little of salt, it's going to lead to a water imbalance. So this is, pretty logical from what we talked about. Too little spice, too little pungency, it's going to lead to weak digestion, poor circulation, cold extremities. If there's too little astringency, it's going to lead to excessive discharge because we have nothing to dry up that discharge. If there's too little bitter, it's going to lead to accumulation of the toxins. So as you can see from all this, food can become a medicine when you choose tastes of foods and herbs that balance your constitution and your needs. Maybe it balances your current imbalance. The key to balancing the body with the six tastes is choosing foods and herbs that have opposite qualities to your imbalance. For example, excess vata. Let's simplify it a little bit because I just gave you a lot of information. So excess vata, a vata that's imbalanced, will have a weak digestive fire, and as a result, vata's dry, light, cold qualities can cause gas, indigestion, constipation, and malabsorption of nutrients. So we need more sweet, sour, and salty tastes. Excess pitta causes heat in the body, which can lead to acid, indigestion, hyperacidity, heartburn. So we need more sweet, bitter, and astringent tastes. Excess kapha can lead to slow digestion, low digestive fire due to kapha's cool qualities. So we need more pungent, more stringent, and bitter. Okay, so again, you need to review this. It's a different way of thinking, and there's a lot of information. But what I will encourage you to do is to look at your food in terms of these qualities and what you're currently eating. And once you've mastered the gunas of food, and it takes a while, but once you kind of come into that feeling of feeling that sensation in your body, going more of an intuition about your food and how you're feeling, you can use this guna method on your ailments also. And we're going to talk about that in the final week 6, and simplify, by healing yourself with just bringing in the opposite qualities. So one way you can do this, and what I encourage you, is to start looking at that site I've recommended before, Joyful Belly, and putting in your dosha in the Joyful Belly site. And then it will bring up a list of recipes as you see here. And then it will show you, well, this sweet potato and spicy pecan is going to be good for vata and pitta, but it has a line through kapha, so it's not good because the sweet potato is sweet and can be heavy for kapha. But when you click on that recipe, then it's going to show you, in this case I chose kapha reducing the khichdi. Look at these circles to the right of the picture. It's going to show you that, it's pungent and it's bitter and it's easy and clear and light. So you can start researching recipes, and on this site, Joyful Belly, it starts showing you the gunas. So this is a way you can start looking at recipes and what guna it has and how it affects your body. Again, it's going to take time. It's very different from what we're used to, but it's also very enlightening. So I encourage you to choose one recipe Maybe it's something simple, either breakfast, lunch, or dinner, from the Joyful Belly site this week, and see how it affects your body, and see how it, and see the qualities of it, and how those qualities affect your mood and the feeling and your mind that day and the next day. Any questions on that? Oh, and then when you go, so this is the next slide will be, it gives you the ingredients, right? And then it gives you what ingredients are good for, what ones of these are pitta provoking, what ones are vata provoking. So maybe, you're pitta and you're making this khichdi, you're like, okay, I need to maybe lay off the cinnamon and cloves and the cumin. Maybe I half that amount because it's heating for pitta and I can feel my fire is a little hot. Okay, so this is a really great educational site when it comes to looking at recipes. Again, just choosing one and playing around with it, and getting more in tune with how it feels in your body. Oh, Kim says, I love Joyful Belly. Now I understand why all the information they provide in the recipes. Well, a little, yeah. Take it in your stride. It's a lot, but the more you look at things, it's going to take time. Like I keep repeating, right? I keep saying that for a reason, because it's a lot, but it's so interesting. Okay, so Joyful Belly is something that's going to be on your homework this week. So that's it in regards tastes and gunas today. I think I've filled your head plenty with that. We're going to shift gear now, finally. And for the last few moments, I want to talk about physical activity, because today's focused all about the body. So we've talked about the nutrition in depth, and we're going to quickly discuss physical activity for the constitutions. And something I probably, if you've done, most of you have done a private consult with me, so we've already talked about this, but let's review. So the benefits of physical activity. You know this already. Strengthens the body, increases the stamina. Body becomes light, which is why kapha needs more of it. Get rid of that heavy quality. Builds and tones the muscles. Increases endurance, improves digestion, gets things flowing around the body. Reduces fat, fatigue, and lethargy. Reduces stress, increases the immune system. Increases the internal heat, opens up the channels of the body, removes blockages. Okay, so this is a big one for kapha, because pitta constitutions are usually on this, maybe to a fault. Maybe they're doing too much, and if anything, pitta needs to back off. Vata's moving all the time anyway. They have a hard time staying still. But kapha, who likes to sit and chat and do slower activities, restorative yoga, we need to get you up and moving and get things circulating, get that sweat going. So the guidelines for exercise in moderation. In our world today, we do too much. We need to, in the Western world, it's all about the more the better. This is definitely my former frame of thought. And I had myself in balance for years from overtraining. I thought more was better. If I'm not sweating bullets, I'm not working out hard enough. Not the case. Anything in excess is going to be too much for our body. Do an activity you enjoy. If you're on the treadmill in the gym going, this is torture, I don't like this, get off the treadmill. Go outside. Do something you enjoy. If you eating or doing an activity you don't enjoy, it's not going to have a good effect on your body, no matter how healthy it's deemed for you. You got to enjoy everything you do. Aerobic exercise at a pace where you can talk in a full sentence. That's ideal. Okay, maybe sometimes, especially for kapha, interval. So maybe you walk 4 minutes fast, a minute strong, then back off 4 minutes at a normal pace, 1 minute power. Okay, do not exercise when you're feeling weak, physical sickness, or right after a meal. Right, especially for pitta, you'll want to exercise because I gotta get it in. I said I was going to do it. I'm type A. I need to do my to-do list. No, you need to listen to your body. Okay, exercise for your dosha, vata, grounding exercises. Remember we talked about your qualities are light and mobile and subtle, your air and space. We need to get you on the ground. So like Tai Chi, walking barefoot, really great. Get on the beach, take your shoes off, walk in the sand. Vata has short bursts of energy, so it's important to conserve your energy, because what happens with Vata is they tend to go, and then they just collapse. Okay, so conserve your energy throughout the day. Work on strength, balance, and agility. Weight training is great for Vata. It's grounding for you. You're increasing your muscle mass. So weight training is excellent. Going to a slower yoga class, Of course, Vata loves movement, and yes, we're going to dance and we're going to feel light and airy. That's okay in moderation, but you need to ground also. So weight training, yin yoga, restorative yoga, get into your body. Go to like an Iyengar yoga class where they slow things down, or find a yoga teacher that talks about, alignment a lot, because Vata have a hard time with aligning their body and feeling their body. So you want to go to a class where they're really talking about getting into the body, grounding yourself, feeling connected. Really good. A yoga teacher is going to tell you to ground down to the four corners of your feet. If you're in yoga class and you feel ungrounded, and you're in a warrior, put your knee down, put your hands on the floor, stabilize. For Pitta, less competition, back off, cooling. More activities for enjoyment. Pitta's competitive by nature. Let's do things just for fun. Moderate exercise, cooler times of the day, staying out of that intense heat. Stay away from the hot yoga. It's too much for you. If you're in class and you feel yourself getting aggravated because of the heat, you're looking at the people around you, you're like, I'm better than them, I can do better than that, I can go deeper into the posture than that. It's your pitta's getting way too high, so back off. Swimming is fantastic, especially in summer. Walking is great because it's backing off the intensity. Hiking. Avoid all-out strenuous exercise, Pitta, because it will really aggravate your body. Basically, if you're in a class or you're exercising and you can feel yourself getting mad, you're in spin class, you're like, I got this, I'm going to push, yeah. That feeling of anger is energy. No, it's your Pitta out of balance, so back off, okay? Kapha, you have amazing endurance. You can go and go and go and go, but the hard thing is for you to get up and moving. So maybe making a date with a Pitta friend or Vata friend and get up and moving. You're great at working out in groups. Exercise to build up a sweat. Exercise every day and be active all the time. Vary activities. Don't do the same thing all the time. Brisk walking, swimming, hiking, jogging, bicycling, dancing. Get up. Make sure you're building up a sweat. Okay, that's really important for you. Any questions on that exercise before we talk about your homework and finish up for today? No questions on exercise. Okay. So like I said, with today's today's information, where this course, you've each gone through a private consultation where we talked about bringing yourself into balance, and most gone through my right now we're introducing taste. And oh my goodness, the tastes come into to this as well, and how to increase the tastes, and how to become aware of the tastes, and just being aware of all that. So it's another level, right? And we're taking our stride and we're like, okay, I'm just going to see how the taste of my food affect me and affect my mind, and take it slowly. Okay. So let's talk about your homework for this week. So like I said, I don't, do I have it on here? No, but I'm going to add it in to look at a recipe on Joyful Belly, and just look at, pick a recipe, whether you're making khichdi or whatever, just choose one recipe that's good for balancing for your dosha, your constitution, and then have a look at the qualities and how it affects you. And if you have any questions, you contact me. And that can be a great way to research, because that has such a wealth of information there to back up what I've already been talking about. For your nutrition homework, I want you to plan your meals for the week. So I'm going to give you a worksheet that's a nutrition planner. So balancing your, meals that are going to balance your constitution this week, planning it in advance. Maybe if, you have to cook for the family, having a, little meeting and saying, okay, or putting it up in the fridge and saying, this is what I'm cooking for the week, heads up, if you're like, really don't like anything, or if you want to add something in, it's a really great way for you to be less harried and less frazzled each evening. It's like, oh, what am I going to eat? But thinking about it in advance, because we can see how important our food is. Buy local, seasonal, fresh, organic where possible. Okay, we've talked about that over and over again. Go into your farmer's market. Drink appropriate water for your dosha. So I actually think I forgot to give you that information earlier. So let's give it to you now. And I'll put this in the email as well. So you want to, Vata, you're dry by nature, so you need to drink the most water. 6 to 8 glasses for Vata per day. Pitta, and Vata, you forget to drink, so you really need to be conscious of drinking. Pitta, like I talked about earlier, you can become really focused on, oh, I gotta drink this much, and almost forcing yourself to drink, but you don't need as much water, maybe 5 to 6 glasses. Of course, drinking when you're thirsty, we know thirst is not a strong sense for us. When we're thirsty, we often are already hydrated, but Pitta, being conscious of not forcing yourself to drink. So Vata, 6 to 8 glasses. Pitta, then you need about 5 to 6 glasses of water. Kapha, you need less, a lot less, because you have a lot of water already in the system. So 4 to 5 glasses of water are okay for your day. And it's so funny because when I meet with Kapha people, they're like, I really have a hard time drinking water. That's okay, because your body's not craving it. You retain a lot of water, so you don't need a lot. Okay, so I'll put that in the email for you, and I want you on your worksheet that's going to be there for you to keep track of. So you're going to complete your worksheet at the end of each day. I also want you to plan your exercise. So on the meal planner, there's also going to be an exercise planner. And thinking about, okay, what am I going to exercise this week? So for Vata, grounding activities. For Pitta, maybe one day you do intervals. The next day I want you just to walk. So think about taking days off for Pitta, because you're too intense as it is sometimes with working out. Kapha, variety. Up and moving every day, really important for you. For prepare your clothes for workouts the night before, right? We talked about last week how with the circadian rhythms, it's best to work out in the Kapha time of day, which is either 6 to 10 a.m. in the morning, or in the evening before between 5 and 7 p.m. No later than 7 p.m. though, because it can be too stimulating, especially for Vata. And complete your worksheet at the end of each day. Now, this, like I said, we're going to repeat this info over and over again, because the same information repeats over all the time, whatever we're talking about. So don't worry about getting everything perfect. So here's your worksheet for this week. In the blue, I have your homework that was for last week. So if you didn't get to do a particular homework assignment last week, maybe you introduce it this week. If you found 10 minutes or 5 minutes of meditation easy last week, then go to maybe 7 or 8 or even 10 minutes this week. Again, whatever fits into your lifestyle. Don't feel pressure. If you're like, I don't have time for 10 minutes, don't do 10 minutes. But I want you meditating every day, even if it's 1 to 5 minutes. But the highlights for breakfast, or highlights for homework this week, is breakfast now between 7 and 8:30 a.m. Okay? And eating according to your constitution. All right? So thinking of those qualities. Vata, you want a grounding breakfast. Pitta, you want, maybe if you're feeling hot and sharp, you want a cooling breakfast. But we all want a breakfast that's at this time of year that's cooked. And Kapha, you want a lighter breakfast, something that's a little bit more light, less heavy starch. Exercise according to your dosha. Lunch at the middle of the day when your digestive fire is strongest. Dinner between 5:30 and 7 p.m. So, a lighter dinner. Making lunch the heavier meal, the main meal at the middle of the day, which we've talked about last week as well. I'm just reinforcing it. And then how many glasses of water you drunk each day. Okay? Journaling how you feel at the end of each day. So that's what your focus is this week. It's all about meal times this week. You're bringing only awareness to the tastes and how they affect your food, to the qualities of your food. And then focus on exercise. So that's it. Next week, we're going to, before I go into next week, any questions, you can type them in there while I'm talking about next week. And then I'm going to let you go, because I did a lot of talking for you today. So next week, it's all about the mind. And I love this one next week. It's going to be all about how the mental qualities of Rajas, of Sattva and Tamas, and how foods and affect your mind, and what are the signs, and how the qualities of the mind affect your dosha, and how to bring a more sattvic mind. And we're going to talk about how mindfulness practices like meditation, yoga, and breath work can really bring your mind into balance. Okay, thank you. I have some questions. Kim, how about breakfast or exercise after between 9 and 10? Okay, so we know between 6 and 10 a.m. is kapha time. It's a great time. Kapha is a heavy energy, right? So the heavy energy is in the environment. So that supports exercise. So that's fine. Exercising up to 10 is perfect, right? So because that heavy kapha energy in the environment, in the circadian rhythm, supports exercise. Breakfast is fine too around that time. We just, yeah, and again, you have to incorporate into your lifestyle. In terms, it's same for me, breakfast after 9 a.m. That's okay. If you are eating breakfast in the kapha time between 6 and 10 a.m., keep it light, especially for kapha constitution. If you're eating after 9, that's okay. You're just going to go like 10 o'clock, the pitta energy comes in, it's going to increase your digestive fire. So we have to, work with our schedules. I'm not as strict with breakfast. I definitely want lunch to be the main meal of the day. Finish lunch by 2 p.m. definitely. And then definitely dinner before 7. That's more important than breakfast for me. I just want to make sure that people are aware that if they are eating breakfast at that 7-8:30 time, that it's just kind of a lighter breakfast. Does that make sense? But definitely try. My rule of thumb is for lunch, main meal. Again, that can be hard in the Western world because we're so used to having dinner as the heavy meal. But think of, okay, I'm going to shift grains to lunchtime, and that's my rule of thumb. Try not eat grains at dinner. So if you have to cook for your family at dinner, think you can obviously still eat the food with your family, the protein and whatever you have at dinner and the carbs, but the heavy grains like rice and potatoes, maybe have them more at lunchtime, so you have lots of time to digest. All right, so lots of food for thought for today. Any other questions before I bid adieu? But please keep your worksheet, because the reason I have you keep your worksheet, because it helps you reflect, and it also helps reflect on how these habits and routines are going to are affecting you. And the more you feel and reflect on how they're affecting you, the more you're going to keep them going, because you're like, wow, I really feel my mind is calm, less irritated. If you're pitta, it really has such an effect on your body. So I am excited to hear you're doing. Please, as I always say, don't hesitate to contact me, because I'm here to support you on this. Any little questions that come up, because you have to tailor this to your lifestyle, to your family, to your work, life. Please just contact me. And I'll check in on you during the week, but keep me posted, and then I will connect with you next Thursday for the mind, which is really great too. Oh, thank you for your wonderful comments. Great information. You're welcome. Thank you. Really informative. Definitely food for thought. Yes. Thank you for staying close. Yes, absolutely. It's I know when I learned this, it was like, whoa, but really eye-opening. I really recommend that you go onto the Facebook group and share your experiences on there on our private Facebook page. I'll put the link again if you're not already there, which I think most of you are. I'll send the link in the email along with this recording. But get on there and support each other, and it's a great way of feeling that community. Obviously, some of you are in Europe, some of you are here in the States, but we can really feel connected and support each other when we share our experiences there. And I appreciate those of you who already have done so. Okay, enough of me talking. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you spending time with this and spending time and investing in yourself and in your education, your awareness, because it's going to be education for life for you, and it's going to really help you feel connected to yourself, feel compassion for others, because you'll understand others. Okay, so I'm going to leave you there. Questions, keep them coming for me by email or text or however when you want to contact me, and I'll connect with you during the week. Okay. Best of luck to all of you. Have compassion with yourself, and namaste.